we're now going to learn about different types of musical instruments and how they make sound, because instruments can make sound in lots of different ways. So the first thing we'll learn about is types of instruments, and how they make sound. Alright, the first type of instrument we'll look at are ones where we hit them to make the sound. And a drum is the easiest example, or the most common one that we know. So a drum, when we hit it with the drumsticks, there's a membrane or a skin on top of the drum that vibrates up and down to make the sound. Another type of instrument that we hit is a xylophone, which has wooden blocks, and again we hit them with some sort of drumstick, and the wooden block vibrates up and down when it's hit, and that's what makes the sound. Other types of instruments, though, have strings, and it's the string itself that vibrates. So one example of this would be a guitar. And guitars have strings which we pluck with our fingers or with a pick, and the string, when it's plucked, vibrates up and down to make the sound. Violins are another instrument that uses strings. So a violin also has strings. Let's do that again. Violins also have strings, but we run a bow across the strings, and this is what causes them to vibrate. Although sometimes the player can pluck a violin as well to make a different type of sound. A violin. Other types of instruments, the player blows into them to make the sound. And one example would be a clarinet, where there is a reed. This is the mouthpiece, and that's attached to the main part of the instrument. And as the player blows air into the mouthpiece, this is the reed, and as they blow air through the mouthpiece, the reed vibrates up and down, and that causes sound. So this is a clarinet. Another instrument similar to a clarinet has at the mouthpiece two reeds on top of each other, and these are attached in a similar way to the rest of the instrument. And when the player blows air into the mouthpiece, the two reeds vibrate against each other. And this is an oboe. Similar to a clarinet, but it has two reeds. A third instrument that needs wind to blow through to make sound is a flute. And at the mouthpiece of a flute, there's just a hollow opening. And the player blows air across the opening, and some of the air goes in and some passes over the top of the opening, and this causes the air inside the opening to vibrate back and forth. So every instrument involves vibrations of some sort to make sound. which we know because sound needs vibrations in general to be produced. The last type of instrument that uses wind are brass instruments, and these have a mouthpiece where the player buzzes into the mouthpiece with their lips, something like a trumpet. So in a trumpet, the player uses their lips to make the vibrations. So the vibrations happen in the mouthpiece while they blow air through, which causes the sound. So we can see in all these instruments, sound is being produced by vibrations. So, instruments make sound through vibrations. But they do it in different ways. The instruments where they need to be hit to make the sound, like a drum or a xylophone, these are called percussion instruments, which means being hit. Instruments with strings that vibrate are called string instruments. Violins and guitars, also cellos and violas. There are lots of string instruments. All these other ones are called wind instruments because the player uses wind to make the sound. But within that, the ones with a reed, like a clarinet and an oboe, are called woodwind instruments. And the ones like a trumpet, also tubas and French horns, are called brass instruments. But they're still a type of wind instrument.